The observation deck of Station Helios buzzed with the usual morning chaos. Scientists arguing over data feeds, engineers cursing at malfunctioning equipment, and somewhere in the distance, the unmistakable sound of something large and angry slamming against reinforced glass. Dr. Mira Hale stood before Enclosure 7 with her arms crossed, a data pad tucked under one elbow, watching the creature inside with the kind of calm that made her colleagues nervous. "You're insane," muttered Dr. Yenish from behind her, his chitinous plates clicking anxiously. The Velkari researcher had seen many things in his 40 cycles, but he'd never seen anyone look at a Kratal juvenile the way Mira did, like it was a golden retriever with an attitude problem. "He's not insane," Mira said without turning. "He's bored." Inside the enclosure, Tech prowled in tight circles. The cub was already the size of a full-grown earth tiger, covered in midnight black fur that rippled over corded muscle. His eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle across his skull, glowed a predatory amber. When he opened his mouth to bare rows of serrated teeth, the translator embedded in the enclosure wall rendered his growl as something between a threat and a tantrum. "Bored?" Yenish's voice pitched higher. "Mira, that thing's species hunts starships for sport. They track prey across star systems. They're apex predators on 12 different worlds." "And he's 6 months old," Mira interrupted, finally glancing back. "In human years, he's basically a toddler. A big, scary toddler, but a toddler nonetheless." She stepped closer to the transparent barrier. Tech's head snapped toward her immediately, all 3 eyes locking onto her form. The growl that rumbled from his chest made the floor vibrate. Mira smiled. "Good morning to you too, Grumpy." Tilak, Cub had something clenched in his jaws. A piece of enrichment equipment. A polymer sphere designed to dispense food when manipulated correctly. Except Tech had figured out how to break it open within hours of receiving it, and now he carried it around like a trophy, growling at anyone who looked at it too long. Possessive behavior. Territorial display. Typical juvenile responses. Also typical toddler responses if Mira was being honest. "He's attached to the object," she said, making notes on her datapad. "Shows preference for tactile interaction. Demonstrates problem-solving abilities far beyond what the Galactic Council assessed." "The Council assessed them as extinction-level threats," Yenesh reminded her. "The Kratal nearly wiped out the Saren colonies before we managed to quarantine their homeworld. Because everyone keeps treating them like monsters." Mira's voice carried an edge now. "You put an intelligent species in a cage, treat them like weapons, and guess what? They act like weapons." She moved to the enclosure's access panel. Yenesh's plates rattled in alarm. "What are you doing?" "Going inside." "Absolutely not." But Mira had already keyed in her override code. The barrier shimmered, creating a human-sized opening. She stepped through before Yenesh could physically stop her. The temperature inside was warmer, calibrated to Kratal preferences. The air smelled of synthetic wilderness, chemical approximations of whatever alien forests Tech's ancestors had stalked. The cub's growl intensified the moment Mira entered, his space dropping into a register that her bones felt before her ears heard. "Easy," she said softly, keeping her body language loose and non-threatening. "I'm not here to hurt you." Tech's haunches tensed, his claws, each one the length of Mira's fingers, scraped against the floor. The toy sphere remained clamped in, his jaws as he backed into a corner, 3 eyes never leaving her, possessive, defensive, afraid of losing something valuable. Mira had seen this exact behavior in dogs, cats, even human children. She crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. "You really like that toy, huh?" The growl continued, but something in Tech's posture shifted. Curiosity, maybe. Or confusion. The other researchers always kept their distance, observed from behind barriers, treated him like a specimen. This human was different. She was close enough now that Tech could kill her with a single swipe. Every survival instinct the Galactic Council had drilled into their species screamed at her to run. Instead, Mira held out her hand. "Can I see it?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Tech's jaws opened. The toy dropped to the floor with a hollow thunk. Mira picked it up, turned it over in her hands, examining it with exaggerated interest. "This is pretty cool, good weight, nice texture." She looked up at the cub. "Want to play a game?" Before Yanesh could scream a warning through the intercom, Mira threw the toy. It sailed across the enclosure, bounced off the far wall, and clattered into the corner. Tech's 3 eyes widened. His head swiveled to track the object's trajectory. Then, he ran, not toward Mira, toward the toy. The cub's massive form moved with surprising grace as he pounced on the sphere, scooping it up in his jaws with a sound that almost resembled excitement. Mira waited, barely breathing. Tech turned around, looked at her, looked at the toy, and then slowly, he padded back across the enclosure and dropped it at her feet. "Holy Mother of—" Yanish's voice crackled through the speakers. Mira grinned. She picked up the toy and threw it again. Tech bolted after it, brought it back, dropped it. His growl had transformed into something else, a rumbling purr-like sound that no Kratal had ever made in galactic custody. He was playing. For the next 20 minutes they played fetch. Each time Mira threw the toy, Tech retrieved it faster, his movements becoming less predatory and more playful. The tension bled out of his posture. His eyes brightened with something that looked suspiciously like joy. When Mira finally stepped back toward the exit, Tech followed her to the barrier, toy still in his mouth. He whined, an almost puppyish sound, when she moved to leave. "Tomorrow," she promised. "We'll play again tomorrow." Outside the enclosure, Yenish stared at her like she'd just performed a miracle. Maybe she had. "He's not a weapon," Mira said quietly, watching Tech settle down with his toy, all 3 eyes slowly closing in contentment. "He's a kid. They're all just kids who never learned how to play." She turned to face her colleague, and her expression carried the weight of absolute certainty. "That's the thing about humans, Yenish. We don't see monsters. We see potential. We see family. And sometimes," she glanced back at the sleeping cub, "we teach the galaxy's most feared predators how to fetch." Yenish's translator struggled with the human concept. Fetch. Such a simple thing. Such a dangerous, revolutionary, beautifully insane human thing.